All right, traders, George here. Happy New Year, and time to get right back at it. High on the list of things to do is to look at oil. The last video I did was on December 7th, and I'll show you a quick snapshot of that video so we know where we're coming from. At that time, we were trading just above $65. We had a real good balance beam at about 67s, but price couldn't hold to move above that and was starting to roll over. And really the call was to see just a little bit more to the downside there, and these were the main targets below, 59s, 57s, and 55s. These were forecasted lows based on price breaking out of this ellipse here. And if price had happened to move back up to 67s and cross over the top line here, then it would set up a move back through this air pocket, which never came to be. So obviously price continued to move down in this historical sell-off that we're seeing, and we're obviously below 55s. We're below the round number 50. We're parked here at 48.77s Wednesday afternoon. So a couple of things. One is this is really sort of an unprecedented move for oil, and the oil big picture chart is really unique in that there's not a lot of trading instruments that exhibit the same sort of patterns. But one thing that does exist are some repetitions within the oil chart. You might be seeing some lightly shaded rectangles here. These two that come in with a low of about 46 plus, they happen to be correlated moves that oil's done in the past. And we put in a little bit of a support swing here, grazing these lows here very close to the low of this floor. At the same time, we're starting to get a lot more trading commitment here in the 48s. We're currently at 48.77, and if you look to the left here, this is maybe deceptive at how deep the range is, but we could be setting up for a pretty good pop to the upside. At 48.77s, price needs to get just a little bit higher over the ceiling of this spike here, and that's going to take it just over the spike of this candle right here. So at 49.41s, we would then look to see price move to the round number of 50, obviously, and over that, this air pocket comes into play. So really the main goal for the first price movement would be to see it attack this area here at 52.90s, basically just under 53. And if it can get over that level, then it's got a shot at moving up to this very heavily traded balance beam here, and that would be at 56s. Okay, if it can get over 56s, obviously there's a couple of key zones within, but there's this balance beam up here, which is obviously a dominant one, being a blue spike. And so I'm just going to lay this out real big picture. Since I only have 3 of these to the upside that I can use, I want to highlight the most important points. One would be coming into the floor here to check that as resistance. The next would be to move above or fade at this area. And then the next would be, if this area is taken over by the bulls, can they get it through this larger scale air pocket and get it up to 67 essentially. There are 3 pretty big spikes within this air pocket, so that's no easy chore to get back north to 67s. Price needs to move up a little bit higher than where it is, but not that much higher. It was just there and faded back with a little bit more strength coming into the mix. And this is big picture stuff here, obviously. The round number of 50, obviously we got to give that a nod, and a little bit higher for this, but you know, the big picture play here is to get into this air pocket, and this would be the attraction to be long oil here on a little bit more strength to the upside. But that being said, with price just drifting a little bit lower and trading below this floor here, that could open up an entire new sell impulse, and really getting below 47.50 does that. We'll give a nod to the floor here at 46 based on this rectangle projection that I created here. 46 would be analogous to price getting over 50 to the upside here. But below 46, that opens the door to retest some earlier lows that it had at $33. I don't want to get into the downside targets here because I'm really trying to set up a potential long play here with price moving up, and this will correlate into the next chart that I show you. So 49.41s, we keep an eye out for 50, and really over that, the bulls have it where they could get a pretty good pop getting up to 53 initially. All right, so that's the setup that I'm looking at, big picture for oil. The other thing is the oil stocks. They're not all behaving exactly the same. For the most part, they've sold off quite a bit, but there are pockets of strength and weakness. One thing that I wanted to show you guys is the oil holders index. So here's the oil holders ETF, OIH, and this is obviously in a downtrend, and it's trying to put in a bottom here. It had a pretty good pop here, gave up a good amount, but is still holding on to the lows here. So the new structure low that was made here is still holding. Note this spike right here. Here's where we want to see strength above this point here, or not. So to get long, I want to see price just clear those two little guys right there and get over this spike. That's going to put me at 34.76s. Got to respect this spike here since it's got red, so it's a relatively substantial spike at these lower levels here, constituting a scalper. But over this level here of 36, 37s, that opens up the door to try and get into this big air pocket here. This is something that could really see price pop up quite a bit. We'll give a nod to the ceiling of this secondary zone here for a second target, and then we'll look to the floor here. Certainly potential resistance starting a little bit earlier, but I'll go ahead and tag this first spike here as the third. So this is a pretty good trade setup here, just to account for price moving into this very heavy zone. This is very heavily traded, and price ran away from that zone. We want to think about that as being overhead resistance as we move up to it. We could, assuming we rally, we could get to this point and see a fade, likely. If we linger in this area and more bulls come in and there's not much movement to the downside and shorts get nervous and start to cover, we could see this thing with a new phase over 46s, and we'll address that if that happens. But for right now, the oil holders service index here is trying to put in a bottom. It's got to see a little bit more strength to really get long. The markets were up a fair bit yesterday and today with some nice action that we talked about in development before it happened in the live room. That's always nice to see the follow through there. But the oil stocks not really going along for the ride as much as some of the other sectors here. So this is where we need to see that strength start. Secondary would be passing this $36 price point. But this is a good looking setup. It just needs that bull energy to come into the mix there. We'll be on top of this in the live room. Make sure you go to the bottom of this video and you can use the link there to get in the live room, and you can see me run through these charts in the morning as well as do some live day trading with some of our proprietary models and even some auto trading. But as far as oil goes, that's pretty much the lay of the land for now for the oil futures and for the OIH. That'll do it for now, and we'll see you back in the live room.